Eurystheus had just done what small men do best. Heracles cleaned the Augean stables in a single day, and Eurystheus erased the victory on a technicality. No payment allowed, no glory allowed, no rest allowed. So the sixth labor was not a reward, it was a correction. From the filth of Elis, Heracles was sent north into Arcadia, toward a lake where the sky itself had learned to bite. The place was Stymphalus, a wooded marshland wrapped around a lake. Reeds, drowned trees, black water, soft banks that could swallow a man up to the waist. It was not empty wilderness. It was a fortress. Diodorus says the birds were countless and that they ravaged the fields around them. Crops vanished. People withdrew. The land near the lake had the uneasy look of a place ruled by something that did not need a throne. This is where the modern version usually cheats. It gives the birds bronze beaks, metal feathers, poison, Ares, and a full monster catalogue all at once. The old sources are stranger because they are less tidy. Apollodorus gives us the spine, a flock hidden in the wooded lake, impossible to reach, until Athena gives Heracles bronze noisemakers forged by Hephaestus. That is the story we can stand on. Pausanias, walking the land centuries later, preserves a harsher detail from local tradition. Birds whose beaks could pierce armor, not cute marsh pests then, a nightmare with wings and engineering. And in the Argonautica, Apollonius gives us related birds of Ares, creatures that launch sharp feather shafts like missiles. That detail matters later. Mythology does love leaving dangerous things alive for the sequel. But the flock's true weapon was not its beak. It was the marsh. The birds were hidden in trees, reeds, and waterlogged ground. Heracles could shoot almost anything he could see. The problem was that he could not see them. If he tried to enter, the marsh took the advantage away from him. Every step sank. Every branch screened the target. Every splash warned the flock. The strongest man in Greece was being beaten by terrain. That is the reversal. Heracles is the hunter, but here the prey owns the battlefield. The birds do not need to defeat him in the open. They only need to stay where his strength cannot become useful. And then Athena arrives, not with a bigger bow, not with a divine sword. That would be the obvious answer, which is why it is not Athena's answer. She brings him a way to change the question. In Apollodorus, the gift is a pair of bronze krotala made by Hephaestus. Think of clappers, rattles, metal instruments built to make a sound the marsh could not ignore. Be honest, as divine equipment goes, this looks almost insulting. Heracles has strangled a lion, burned Hydra necks, chased a sacred deer, dragged a boar through snow, and now the goddess gives him noise. But Athena understands the labor better than anyone. The birds are not unbeatable, they are unreachable, so she does not give Heracles a weapon for killing, she gives him a weapon for exposure. Heracles climbs above the lake. That detail matters. From high ground, the whole marsh becomes a bowl. The reeds, the trees, the water, the hidden nests. One sound can reach all of it. Then he raises the bronze and strikes. The first crash rolls over the water, not music, not a signal, a hard metallic wound in the air. Again, the noise multiplies against the hills. Birds shift in the reeds. Wings scrape bark. The safe hidden world of the marsh begins to shake itself apart. Then the flock erupts. Countless dark bodies tear upward from the trees, and suddenly the invisible enemy is everywhere. Heracles has not won yet, but he has forced the battle into the open. That is the cleverness of the labor. Heracles does not overpower fear, he weaponizes it. The birds panic, and in panic they abandon the one place where they were safe. Of course, panic does not mean helpless. Once airborne, the birds become a storm. Wings beat like shields, beaks flash. Feather shafts slash through the air in the harsher tradition. Heracles drops the krotala and takes up the bow. Since the Hydra, his arrows have carried a different kind of ending. One scratch from that venom can turn a heroic contest into a funeral arrangement. Now the labor becomes archery. Not blind shots into reeds, but clean lines into open air. He looses one arrow, then another, and the sky that belonged to the birds begins to betray them. Pausanias gives us beaks that can punch through armor. Apollonius gives feather shafts sharp enough to threaten heroes. Heracles answers with the ugliest inheritance of the Hydra, poison that makes distance irrelevant. He kills many, that much the tradition allows, but this is not an extermination story. The survivors scatter, and that survival is important. Greek myth rarely wastes a good monster when it can travel. In some tellings, the birds flee beyond Greece. They do not vanish from the mythic world. They become the sort of rumor sailors hear before deciding, incorrectly, that a voyage will probably be fine. Later in the Argonautica, the Argonauts meet birds of Ares near the Black Sea. They are not simply repeating Heracles' labor, but the echo is loud. Sharp feathers, dangerous birds, men suddenly needing a plan. And what do the Argonauts do? They make noise, shields, shouting, metallic clamor. The old solution returns because the real lesson was never about the exact instrument. It was about breaking the enemy's confidence. That is why Athena belongs in this labor. She does not hand Heracles victory, she hands him the missing idea. Wisdom in this story is not softness. It is violence aimed at the correct part of the problem. The labor is won before the first arrow flies. The arrows finish the work, but the decision that matters comes earlier. Heracles refuses to fight on the marsh's terms. That makes this the perfect labor after Augeas. First he redirected rivers, now he redirects fear. The king keeps inventing humiliations and impossibilities. Heracles keeps changing the shape of the problem. Imagine Eurystheus hearing the report. The lake is cleared, the fields are safer, the birds are gone or dead. The labor counts this time, which must have annoyed him terribly. A small mercy for the rest of us. The Stymphalian birds are not just a monster flock, they are a lesson in access. Power means very little if the target is hidden, protected, and comfortable. Make it move, and power becomes useful again. But the next labor will not stay in the sky. The king will send Heracles across the sea to Crete, after a bull tied to Poseidon, royal shame, and a command worse than killing it: bring the beast back alive. Follow the story. Heracles is only getting started.